Our speaker today is somebody who we know well and we love well and always tells us great stories. And it's Reverend Jan Limberg Morgan. Reverend.
Well, may something that I say this morning find a place in your heart, that it may go with you and enrich your life. When Reverend Brian gave me the topic for the month, perseverance, I'd love to tell you I was over the moon, but unfortunately I wasn't. I realized later in my soul searching why. But I was having difficulty with the word, because John D. Rockefeller said, "I do not think there is any quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance." Now bear with me. John D. Rockefeller was a huge financier, seemed to represent money and power, etc. And somehow the word perseverance wasn't that attractive. But I realized I didn't pay attention to a part of the quote, which was success of any kind. I missed the of any kind. So it wasn't just financial success or the power. It was success of any kind. And when I kind of absorbed that, I went, okay, that's where some of my resistance is coming from. This week, I have been a walking, living, breathing example of perseverance. My computer crashed with my talk in it. Instead of giving you a talk, I could probably do a 20-minute comedy routine on what I've gone through this week. I won't do that, I promise, Brian. But after the crash of my computer, discovered that my keyboard had died. So with a mad scramble to put everything back in order for this morning. I will tell you, my resolution was a $12.99 purchase at Walmart, of all places. But my perseverance paid off because I'm here. And I didn't panic. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't panicking. But I wasn't. I was sort of like, it'll work. Anyway, that's... The song Gonna Build a Mountain had been running through my head since I first started thinking about this talk. But with everything else that was going on, when I finally realized it would be a really good introduction to my talk, I thought, I can't call the musicians in the middle of the week and ask them to accommodate me with a piece of music. So I get an email from Gail on Thursday morning asking me what my subject is. Yes. So when he let me know it was going to be part of the sing-along, I went, thank you, Gail. Perseverance can be short-term, like my week. It can last a lifetime, or it could be a special project. On Saturday, last Saturday, before the 4th of July, my son and my granddaughter were having a daddy-daughter weekend, but they invited me to go for a walk on the beach with them. Well, I'm one of these people that loves to look at children, and I love to look at dogs, and they always make me smile. So I knew I couldn't keep up with them. I sent them along. When we got to the top of the beach, to the lifeguard thing, down by 4th and Grand, it looked like a homeless shelter as far as you could see in both directions. There were these, I don't know what they call them, these 4 poles with a lid on top. I'm sorry? Pop-up, yes. Well, as far as you could see in both directions, there was a long row of these, and there were cars and people to go with it. And the tide was in, or fairly close in. So my son and my granddaughter take off, and I'm paddling through the edge of the water, and I'm looking at the little kids and smiling. But have you ever been out and looked at people and had them look back at you with such a blank stare they can't see you? It's like you're not there. And I would look at the little children and smile, and I'd get this. And I'd look at the parents, and I'd get this. And I started to get disillusioned, and I thought, oh, just don't smile. Just drop your head, watch the water, walk, and mind your business. Well, I couldn't do that. Finally, two little children playing in a pool. I looked at them and I laughed, and the mother saw me and she gave me a very faint smile. So I thought, okay, there's one. I'm going to keep going. So when we joined up together and we're heading through the parking lot to the outdoor shower, walking along the cement, and two tiny children came at me, one from each side on plastic scooters. And I went, whoa, stoplight. And they both looked at me like, and the father came rushing over and he says, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I looked at him and I said, you don't have to apologize. We were just having fun. And his whole demeanor changed. And he went, oh, thank you, thank you. You have a wonderful day now. And he and his wife were just smiling. And those were the first people on the entire beach. But that's the reaction I want, I was looking for, not intentionally, but that sense of connection. So I felt that in persevering with the smile, I got rewarded. I looked up synonyms for perseverance, and the ones that felt best to me were steadfast, purposeful, and to have resolve. Now that was a little easier to talk about. So if I substitute the word living on purpose for perseverance, I take it that that'll be okay. Thank you. So what does living on purpose mean? Well, for me, it means to bring love, compassion, and peace to all I meet, and to leave my world better than I found it. As we study the principles of unity, we learn that each of us is a unique and individualized expression of God, right? Do we integrate that concept into our beings? Do we really accept it as the truth? The creative intelligence of the universe loves us. It loves us enough to create us in its own image. And we're perfectly acceptable in the eyes of the divine, just as we are. I have a favorite story which I am going to tell you. You might have heard it before, but every time I read or think about this little story, it warms my heart. A little boy by the name of Joey Lamancusa was born with club feet. With treatment, he'd be able to walk normally, but he would probably never be able to run very well. First three years of his life was surgery, casts, and braces. His legs were massaged, worked, and exercised, but by the time he was 7 to 8 years old, you wouldn't know he had a problem when you watched him walk. But at the zoo or amusement parks, he'd complain that his legs hurt and were tired. And so his parents would sit down, they'd have an ice cream cone, and they'd talk about what they'd seen and plan what they were going to go and see ahead. They didn't tell him why his legs hurt or were weak. They didn't tell him that this was expected due to his deformity at birth. When the neighborhood children ran around playing, Joey would jump right up and run and play with them. They never told him that he probably wouldn't be able to run as well as the other children. They didn't tell him, so he didn't know. In 7th grade, he decided he wanted to join the cross-country team. And every day he trained with the team. He worked harder and longer than any of the others. But he sensed that the abilities that came naturally to everyone else didn't come naturally to him. But he understood that he was going to persevere, and he was going to work harder, and he was going to make it. He was going to make the team. The team represented the school. And although all the runners scored throughout the races, it was the team's score that represented the school score. And there were 7 members on this elite team. They didn't tell him that he shouldn't expect to make the team, so he didn't know. He continued to run 4 or 5 miles every day. And one day he had 103-degree fever, but he went running anyway. They didn't tell him that he shouldn't do that. So he went on his cross-country run on that day that he was sick, and his mother drove slowly behind him, just keeping her eye on him. And she pulled up alongside, asked him how he was doing, and he said, "Fine. 2 more miles to go." The sweat running down his face and his eyes glassy with fever, he kept running. 2 weeks later, the day before the second to the last race of the season, the names of the team runners were announced. Joey was number 6 of the 7. The other 6 members of the team were all 8th graders. Joey was a 7th grader. He didn't know that he wasn't supposed to be able to make the team. So he did it anyway. I think that's a level of perseverance that would make most of us be in awe. I've often wondered, I'd love to be able to follow up on this young man and find out what he did with the rest of his life. It's kind of frustrating only knowing that part of it. We spent our lives, I've spent my life, and I have a sneaky hunch I'm not alone, seeking to make God, my parents, my friends, my children love me. Learning to love ourselves can be new. Now, our spiritual practice is focused on loving and respecting ourselves. At least mine is. And again, I have a sneaky suspicion I'm not alone. When asked, and as a minister I've been asked many times, I'm the one that tells others, you cannot give from an empty well. You must fill your own well first. You must fill this up so that you can give. An empty well will not overflow. What I've learned is when we can purposefully, proactively take care of ourselves, it becomes natural to extend that caring to others. Every time we experience fear or self-rejection or guilt or hate, we're forgetting who and what we are. My sense of purpose might not work for you. You have your own gifts. After all, each one of us is unique. And no one else can do what you can do as well as you can do it. You're the best at what it is you can do. In a confrontation between a stream and a rock, the stream always wins. It wins because the stream is willing to explore new territory by simply surrendering to the law of gravity, flowing over, under, and around the rock in order to achieve its purpose. And its purpose is to be a stream, and then a river, and then an ocean. I read a story about a month ago that wowed me. So I'm going to share it with you and hope that maybe it'll wow you too. The story is called My Father's List. A lady by the name of Laura Connie, who lives in New York, by the way. Her brother approached her and said he had something she needed to see. And he showed her 3 crumpled, handwritten pieces of paper with 60 desires on them. This was her father's bucket list. Her father had checked off 6 of them prior to his death 13 years before in a car accident. So there were 54 unfinished items on the bucket list. Laura's husband looked at it and he looked at her and he said, "You need to finish this, and I'll support you in it." This isn't what Laura had planned for her life. Her father was brilliant and creative, but he never seemed to settle down. And Laura determined that her life was going to be different. The first year, she checked off 14 items. She ran 10 miles straight, swam the width of a river, skydived at least once. From what I gather, it was only once. Rode a horse fast, and surfed in the Pacific Ocean. These tasks required courage and athletic prowess. She also managed to talk with the president that her father had wanted to talk to, President Jimmy Carter. She found out that he taught Sunday school still in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. And she and her husband went to the church, went to the Sunday school, and after the lesson, they visited with the president and his wife, Rosalind, and had their pictures taken. After she was laid off from her job as a magazine writer, she decided to step out and become a full-time writer, to work on a book about fulfilling her father's goals. She checked off all 54 items in 6 years. She recorded songs, she set up a charitable fund, and she corresponded with the Pope. But it wasn't all glory. She wiped out 20 times before she was able to stand on a surfboard. She almost got washed away in the river that she was swimming across. And she threw up while skydiving on television. Every time something ridiculous happened, she connected with her father's spirit because his outstanding quality was his sense of humor. Now, this really got me because I'm one of these people that when I do something stupid or things don't, this week I laughed a lot. I laugh. It's like, I just laugh. I don't get angry or stomp or anything. I just laugh. And so I could really relate to this man that laughed so much. And as Laura said, if we aren't laughing at how strange it is to be human, what's the point? Laura completed the 60th item on June 13th of this year when her new book was released, My Father's List, How Completing My Father's List Freed Me. Now that's what I call perseverance for a project. You know, Laura and Steve intuitively knew that it was Laura's assignment to fulfill her father's bucket list. Laura was like the stream. She was willing to explore new territory. She was willing to go with the flow, willing to do whatever it required to move forward, ultimately willing to make a complete life change in order to write the book. And her father was like that stream. He was willing to go with the flow. He explored new ideas and experiences. And instead of living his life, allowing society's rocks to define his path, he lived his life the way he was inspired to live it day by day. You know, Laura began building her mountain when she started on this journey and took 6 years to build it. We get to live our purpose here at Unity. The welcoming faces that meet us at the door. There she is. The talent displayed by the musicians. The chaplains that serve and pray. Your leaders, Reverend Brian and licensed Unity teacher Chris Carey. The volunteers that do so much to keep everything going. And you know who you are. I don't know all your names, but I know who you are. And the love that's displayed with the gifts of food and other things that lets the stream of what is Unity flow so beautifully. You know, there are times when we have the opportunity to extend love and light in the face of hate. When we visualize a mountain topped with love and light, when we have the courage to take our dream of a world that embraces everyone, and we start rolling it up the small hill beside us, and as it joins with the other mountain builders, creating a larger and greater mass, imagine what it would look like if each one of us, not only in this room, not only in this community, not only in this country, but across the world, if each one would add the gift of our own divine being to create that mountain with a pathway for each to reach the top, with everyone adding their gift to reach out into the world. What if we all approached each other from a place of love and safety? When enough people can keep this consciousness of love for humanity as a whole, only then will world peace become a reality. And would we not then be living on purpose? Would we not then be seeing the evidence of our perseverance, of our steadfastness? You know, when we go about our lives conscious and aware of our impact on this beautiful blue planet, when we're gracious and respectful to those around us, when we stay alert to the quality of our communications with both family and others, when we're compassionate and caring toward all living things, when we're compassionate and caring towards ourselves, then we're living with purpose. We're steadfastly persevering in living the lives we've chosen. You know, living on purpose doesn't require a spotlight or publicity coverage. Mother Teresa said, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And what greater way of living with purpose than to change our lives and influence another to do the same. Namaste.